Now, Sports Talk with Brodes. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Brodes. I'm not happy. I'm not. And look, if you want to ask yourself, are you okay with their effort versus are you not okay with their effort? I think we all side on they competed, they battled, but that doesn't mean that there's not flaws in their game that we can nitpick. While overall, we can see that they did bring this level of intensity, they were also tired. Their special teams unit sucked in the beginning. Ivan Provorov was a disaster in the beginning. Brian Elliott allowed a softie. You had a brutal line change to allow the game-winning goal, and they were hungrier than you. So while I can acknowledge that they did compete with the Penguins in this game, and I know AV and the team is throwing out this quote that it could have went either way or either team could have won in the third. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that because I thought that they made more mistakes than the Penguins, so ultimately that should have been the outcome. And I know that they're looking at it with eyes of Kevin Hayes had some chances in the third, did he not? Whether it was him backdoor on his backhand, he tried to pass the puck from behind the goal line. It hit off a defenseman's skate of the Penguins and almost went in. He also had this 2-on-1 developing, and he had good patience, but I thought he waited just a little too long. So he did have chances. Nolan Patrick on the 5-0 opportunity on a mini 2-on-1, he wasn't able to bury. So maybe they're saying, well, if we would have cashed in on one of those, this wouldn't have been the outcome. I don't know if I can go there, though, because if you change this, if you change that, if you do this, if you do that, it affects the whole entire game and what happens afterwards because, well, now the puck drop is at center ice instead of being in the corner or something else, right? So it changes everything. I can't do that. I look at this game and I say, you deserve to lose. And I can credit your effort and still be upset that you came out so bad. You have to kill penalties. Look, you actually started the game off with the lead. It started out defensively in the D zone, a great play right inside your own blue line, which then transitions into a 2-on-0 between Laughton and Travis Konecny. Great puck movement, great vision, great patience. Not overdoing it because let's be real, 2-on-0s are very unconventional. You don't get it very often. So when you do, you don't want to make that extra pass. You got to make sure you one-time it at the right time. And they did. Broke the water bottle and everything. But as soon as you do that, you go in the box. You go in the box. Don't you know that one of the most important shifts after scoring a goal, whichever team it is the shift right after. And if you allow that to then become a mess and become a disaster, you're not going to win many hockey games. And this is something that this team does. This Flyers team constantly gets themselves into trouble as soon as they score. When the Flyers score, so does the other team. Every single damn time. Now, why is that? How do we stop that? You got to stop that bleeding. Because if it's a trend and it's something that your team will do every single game and it seems like it's on that track out of the recent stretch, you're not going to be very successful. So here you are. You're up 1-0. Now it's 1-1. Now it's 2-1. Stay out of the box. Provorov, go into the box. No. You got to have him out there. Provorov has to be out there. They look tired, though. This team looked tired. But so are other teams. And I know, I heard Jim Jackson during the broadcast saying he doesn't want to make an excuse about it. He also stated it during that post-game live. It's a part of it. But I also can't bring it up every single time. We all know the circumstances. We know where they are. We know about COVID-19. They have to go out there and play their games. It's not only because of COVID that they're tired in the third period. You're icing the puck. You're icing the puck. You're icing the puck. The Penguins were doing the same thing. So they outlasted you in that moment. Unacceptable to me. You allowed the Penguins, when they were on empty, they were running out of gas too. You allowed them, because of a bad mistake with the line change, to get in on Mccann. And it's unfortunate, to get in on Brian Elliott, I should say. Mccann was the one to find the puck in that area. Tanev throws a puck on net, looks for the pad. It pops out right in front of the slot area. Bad change, and I didn't like the effort to get back either during that change. And what do you know? There's Mccann. They were hungrier than you in that moment. And it's unfortunate for Brian Elliott because he had Gensel. It was Crosby to Gensel. No surprise. It was a beauty of a pass. And here's Moose coming up big with a save. And I tweeted out the video at the time. You can follow me on Twitter at Brodes81. During the games, I'm throwing out good visuals. I'm having some fun. I'm live tweeting. So make sure you head on over there and follow me. I tweeted out Moose. I gave a big Moose, all caps, 7,000 O's. Well, as soon as I hit send and it pops up on the feed, within moments, within seconds, we're talking about the Penguins taking that 4-3 lead. And keep in mind, Brian Elliott, in the period before, at the end of that third period, you saw a tough angled shot by Aston Reese go down. Now, it looked like his pad, as he was hugging the post, the pad that was actually down on the ice was the one that it went underneath of. Normally, it would be, well, the right pad is maybe up and it squeaks through the 5-hole, hits his skate and goes in, redirects off something. But his pad did seem to be down. I would like another look at it. This is me going off of memory during the game. But it did look like it went through Brian Elliott on the leg that was down. You still got to be stronger in that area, though. So there's some things that definitely made me unhappy. Things that made me happy, though. When Ghost makes it a 3-2 hockey game, what you saw out of Voracek and Laughton, that was incredible. Now that was battling hard on the boards. Beat your opponent. That is being hungrier. Okay? Do you see the difference here? Mccann getting to the loose puck first, and then Laughton and Jake Voracek along the wall in the offensive zone after you get the puck deep, establish your forecheck, play a little physical. And this is coming right after that Joel Farabee incident with Matheson. Matheson hits him. He doesn't like it. He gets up slow. As they were cutting the commercial, you saw Malkin and Farabee giving a couple how-do-you-dos that raised the intensity a bit. And right after that, you got a good establishing forecheck. You got in there. You were winning puck battles with your stick, not just your physicality, using your stick as well, going from low to high. And Voracek just thrives by going hard to the crease area. Maybe he played a role into it. I don't know. Maybe that did nothing. But just the fact that he went from the corner to the wall, from the wall to the front of the net, it's everything. It's the little things. That was a great play. That's one of those when you go back and watch film. It's, yeah, this is in the good package. One of my coaches didn't believe in the good package, by the way. They only believed in showing you the negatives, and I think that is completely flawed. If I'm a coach and I see that my team is doing things that are fantastic, that will help you win, I'm going to show you those as well. I'm going to throw that into a pile of, hey, we did a great job here. This is what you need to continue to do. And my one coach only would go with negatives. This is what you don't do. You are expected to do the great things. And, okay, hero. To me, that's being a hero. I hated this coach, by the way. There's only one coach that we hated to this degree. And, it was this man. Oh, it was bad. It was a brutal season. But no one cares about that at all. What we care about is the poor play by the Flyers in the first period. When you go through these games and you dissect them, I feel there are so many times where the Flyers get some power plays early. And if you think to yourself, wow, it would be great if they scored, right? Because if they scored, now it's 1-0 and then get a nice early lead. They can get comfortable and they can play a smoother, crisper game. And let's say, because there's times where they get 3 power plays in a row and they can't cash in on any of them. So to see that happen in the first period, it makes you want to blow my brains out. They eventually did score a power play goal and they eventually killed off penalties too, which was nice to see. But on their power play goal, you get Kevin Hayes with this short side rip. And I know that we have been ripping Nolan Patrick, and he hasn't been able to produce enough offensively like we need him to do, and that's reality of the situation. But Nolan Patrick was a big part of that screen. He's standing in front of the netminder, taking away the eyes, and here's Kevin Hayes who's ripping one short side. You do have to tip your cap to Nolan Patrick, even though he hasn't been what we needed. And now you're starting to hear some rumors about, okay, if the Flyers are going to attack a defenseman because they need help, when I see Justin Braun out there with Provorov, it hurts me. I can only imagine what Provorov is feeling in the moment because it hurts my eyes. And everyone's all upset because I made this statement in the past, and I'll stand by it. Right now, as great as Ivan Provorov is, and his ceiling is unbelievable, when it comes to Ivan Provorov, he's not ready yet to be that Matt Niskanen. He's not. And everyone thinks, well, I get fired back a bit. People fire back at me. What do you mean? He's your number one D-man. How is that possible? Well, Matt Niskanen, let's look at skill set wise, right? And this somewhat relates to the Sixers and the whole grooming of Joel Embiid and the blossoming of Ben Simmons. It takes time for that to happen. When you think of true number one stay-at-home lethal shutdown defensemen, what age are they? How many years of experience? It's not about the skill set, because Matt Niskanen was your number one guy last season. He was that guy, but he's not as skilled as Ivan Provorov. He's not as great as Ivan Provorov, but he knows the game better. He understands the NHL better. He is more experienced. He's been around the block. He's educated. He knows the little things to be that guy. Ivan Provorov has a better skill set, but he's not ready to be that guy, and that's okay. Some of these players who are in that role, they're not insanely talented. They just know the ins and outs of it. Ivan Provorov is on his journey of learning that. He's a Joel Embiid. He's a Ben Simmons. He is going to be one of those players that we talk about as his career continues to move on. He's just not there yet. So when you throw him Shayne Gostisbehere in recent games, and when you throw him Justin Braun, and when you throw him some D-man, and keep in mind, rotating defensemen, it seems every single damn week, well, it's hard for a player in this part of his career, even though he has years under his belt and he's played a ton of seasons now, he's not ready yet. And that's okay, because that's normal in growing as an athlete. So when he's playing with Braun, when he's playing with some of these guys, yeah, you know what? It takes away from Provorov, and I think that puts him in a tough spot where the pressure is a little bit too much right now, and it's a lot on his plate, and he starts to take penalties, or he'll turn the puck over. He's got to be sharper than what he was early on in this game. I think everybody's clear of that, but I'm telling you why this is. It's called human nature, and it's called how professional sports works most of the time, majority of the time. Think about, look, there's always outliers, right? So there's always going to be that one stud, the Cale Makars of the world. Well, you can't just pluck those type of players off of trees. I just want you to think about the league and think about when you go around each team and see their number one true defenseman on a team that is properly constructed, may I add. Yeah, they're at a certain age. They might not be the most skilled in the world, but they're the smartest players. And that takes time to kind of grow into. That third period was brutal. But what I was thinking about, with the icings, that is. I'm looking at my notes here, and icings in all caps. Yeah, it definitely showed their fatigue. And I'm nervous, by the way, for tomorrow, because they play a back-to-back. And they're playing the Washington Capitals, who are coming off of a bit of some rest. They did play the Bruins, and it was a physical Bruins game. You had Tom Wilson incident go down. He's dropping the mitts a few times. So who knows where they are mentally as a team, the Washington Capitals. They're probably frustrated. They're probably annoyed. It was physical, and it was a physical game that got ugly, got chippy. Maybe that makes them a bit fatigued, but I think that's a different type of tiredness than what we will see out of the Flyers based off of going through 60 minutes the night before. Brian Elliott, he had big moments. He eased into the game might not be the best phrase I'm looking for, but I think he had the ugly one in the second period. He had stronger moments in the third period. That's kind of what I was trying to get to. As that game moved into the third, I thought you saw some big saves. I don't really blame him for that fourth one. It was a far pad type of shot. I think what I need to rely on then is, one, not to be a poor change, and two, someone to pick up whoever is driving to the net there. So maybe there is going to be a rebound, and I don't like that it was somewhat into the slot area, but that's well-placed shot. That's called shooting for a rebound. That's called shooting essentially as a pass, and sometimes that's going to be effective. You got to then rely on the people in front of you, if you're Brian Elliott, to be able to pick up sticks, to be able to pick up the garbage, maybe chip it off the glass, allow it to go into the neutral zone, and then establish your forecheck once again. But we've looked at Brian Elliott's age, and we have been wondering if this is something that could be sustainable if he plays more hockey. And when you see those hiccups, when you see those errors, am I allowed to relate it to being an older guy, playing more hockey, relying on the veteran in more situations? Because there is something happening right now. It looks like Carter Hart's taking a bit of a backseat, and that's okay. But you're now seeing hiccups out of Brian Elliott that you didn't see before. And will this continue to happen if you are going to throw him in between the pipe more often. He is a long-time netminder in this league with a lot of miles on those tires. Something to think about as we continue to watch him. I wanted to talk about the defense. I did get sidetracked there when I was talking about Ivan Provorov and all. You got Prosser in the mix. Now you're starting to implement Prosser. I don't think it's ironic that you see reports about Ekholm, some draft picks, maybe Nolan Patrick out on the Twitter sphere the same time I'm watching Nate Prosser play. I got a couple texts from my buddies. You think he's going to score? Come on. The fact that Nate Prosser ever scored to begin with is probably one of the funniest things that happened all season. Something that's not funny, though, something that is beautiful, amazing, might make you teary-eyed, is going over to DeSimone Jewelers. And why would you be teary-eyed? Well, because you're getting the best engagement ring you will ever see for such a great price. I did that. All right, I went in there and I was looking around the rings and I said, yeah, I like that one. How much is it? And he gave me a number. I was like, whoa, that's it? That's it? And this thing is blinging. It's a rock. The amount of gestures, appreciation, the amount of, whoa, hold on a second. That is a beautiful ring. What does your fiance do? Okay, she gets that question all the time. And that's because I went to DeSimone Jewelers. They're the best in the business. DeSimone Jewelers is a family-owned business with 40-plus years of experience. They moved from Jewelers Row to Haddonfield, New Jersey. They don't use sale tactics. They just show you options and they educate their customers. And they treat their customers like family. DeSimone Jewelers customizes and manufactures every ring they make from start to finish on location. And because of that, they're able to beat out competitors in prices. I've sent a ton of family members there, a ton of friends, and they all say the same thing. Brodes, they are amazing. They are outstanding. And I said, I tried to tell you that. I had to get your ass in there when you did. Bang! Bang! You'll never go anywhere again. Tell them Brodes sent you. More information is down below in the description. All right, shall we hit the anytime hotline? Yeah, I think we should. I think it's time. Let's hear what you had to say after the Fly Guys lose 2 of 3, which bothers me, by the way. You can't lose 2 of 3 to your rivals. You just can't.
You want to talk about waste of half of my Saturday. Thank you, Justin Braun. This team needs to be fixed. I'm beside myself. Seriously.
Well, waste of a Saturday. I don't know if it was one of those games, to be honest with you. I don't know if I walk away after that and say, wow, what a waste. Now, if they lose 5-1, if the first game of the series happened again today, then I think it's a waste. But I thought when you take a few steps back, and I mentioned this from the top with the effort side of things, I'm not fully mad at their effort, although then I can dive deeper and peel back the layers and say, okay, well, their special teams, their power play, their PK, the line change, the bad play by Brian Elliott to allow Aston Reese to score a goal from that poor of an angle. So as you start peeling the layers back, yes, there's reasons why you lost the hockey game. You allowed 4 goals. Something occurred that wasn't good that you didn't execute very well on. But from a bigger picture standpoint and from a more broad view, their effort was fine. I don't feel cheated as a fan by their effort. They were hanging in there. And they had some nice moments. They had some ugly moments. I don't walk away going, you know what, I'm really upset with the Flyers where I can't believe I just did that. I didn't feel that way. Maybe I'm in the outlier. I don't know. We'll see what other people had to say, but I think that's a little too strong. You were engaged. You were entertained. If you're looking at it from pure fan mindset, were you not entertained? It wasn't a blowout. It wasn't a dud. There was back and forth action. There was physicality. It got into a Flyers-Penguins game. It got chippy. That play by Shayne Gostisbehere, that first hit that kept winning play of the game or hit of the game, I'm like, yo, fellas, let's take that one off the replay so many damn times in slow motion because that was a penalty. You saw what Tom Wilson did the other night to Boston. I think it was Carlo off the top of my head. I'm not exactly sure. I think it was Carlo that ended up getting hit by Tom Wilson. But, man, it was full head first for Shayne Gostisbehere as well. I don't know. Is something going to happen to that? I think it's funny how, not funny. It's not funny. But with the phrase here, I think it's funny that one guy in Tom Wilson, it's looked at differently than another player, and I think Tom Wilson deserves a lot of blame. He is a repeated offender. He's a guy, when someone's involved in that type of play 6, 7, 8, 9 times. We can all go back into the history books here recently and see that he has been one of those players. So when it gets to that level, yeah, you should have to drop the mitts twice in one game and support yourself and back yourself up. When it's Ghost, he doesn't have that type of track record, but similar hits, in my opinion, to be quite frank with you. Definitely pretty similar. I didn't like it. I didn't like the hit.
This defensive core sucks complete ass. I keep seeing bad passes, bad defense. Gostisbehere and Provorov are the only players I see worth being given a damn. Myers is if you develop them right, but Sanheim, Braun, and everyone else is like a bunch of meat shields used for blocking shots, and even then they don't even seem like they could do that right either. Now, I know everyone's talking about the Ekholm trade. Now, Brodes, I got one proposition that I want your opinion on. This guy might be worth a first-round pick. He's old, but the Sharks look like they're about to blow it the fuck up. Would Brent Burns be worth going after?
I would have to look more into, I started looking up Sanheim stats, Phil Myers stats, because I want to touch on what you were saying, because I disagree with you about Phil Myers and Sanheim. I think that they are good defensemen, and the problem is what I was talking about with Provorov. They're just young, they're raw, they're still learning. Travis Sanheim is a good defender. Phil Myers is a good defenseman. They're just not ready yet because it takes time for these defensemen. Defensemen's a little different than forward. You can find your rookie forward, and I'll tell you, Kel McCarr is an outlier. Before you start throwing some of these names out there, when you talk about really grooming into a top four defenseman, it takes time. There's a huge learning curve, and Phil Myers is an undrafted guy that you can slot into top four. By the way, he didn't even play today, so to look at today's game and bash him, and not to come at you there, but when it comes to Brent Burns, I wanted to look at the contract is what I wanted to do. Not so much the stat side of things for Brent Burns. His contract, we'll have him sign for another 4 more years after this. He's 35 years old. Oh, my Lord. He's 35 already. Time flies by. He's signed until he's 39 years old. Oh, yeah, I would, though. If you ask me would I take a shot on Brent Burns, yes, I would. I would do that. Ekholm is another name. Yes, I would do that. But getting back to this Myers and Sanheim point that I disagree with. Sanheim has played in his young career at age 24, may I add. He has played 219 games. He's got 77 points, and he's around even in 200 and something games. That is like Travis Sanheim to think, we got to get rid of him, we got to move him. He's not the problem. Last year, Sanheim, Phil Myers, those guys weren't the problem. You add a Matt Niskanen, and look how great your D-cord is, and look how structured it is. So I'm not just getting rid of Sanheim, Myers, this and that. Justin Braun stinks. Ghost, he's having a better season than maybe some would think, but maybe are we feeling different about Ghost because the bar is now so low for him? He had a nice go today, and he's on a nice stretch of scoring goals, so it's hard for me to truly criticize Ghost to this high level at the moment. But Ghost, fine. If he's a 5'6" defenseman, I think he can be in your lineup if he plays this way, if he plays this version of himself that we're getting. I don't know if that's truly him, but fine, 5th, 6th. If you just add one more D-man or 2 defensemen, like Sanheim and Myers is a nice core unit. I just disagree with you there fully. Going to Phil Myers in 85 games, he's got 23 points. He's plus 12 in his career. I just think that your frustration for Justin Braun and your frustration for Matt Niskanen leaving and your frustration for having to play Gustafsson and your frustration for even being at the point where you're playing Nate Prosser is now elevating towards and forcing you to push you towards Sanheim and Myers, and I just don't agree with that. Sanheim does get a lot of not, is it hate? A lot of criticism, I think, and I think it's too strong. This is where patience comes into play. This is where understanding where they are as players come into play. The skill set's there. The playmaking ability is there. Jumping up in the rush is there. Now it's about learning, adapting, growing, getting stronger. All that. That's how I see it.
Tough one today, tough one to end the trip with. But honestly, not a game that the Flyers really deserve to win. I thought they played a good second period, but not a good first and not a good third. And as much pressure as seemed to be put on Daryl Morey to make a trade for the 76ers, I could say that about Chuck Fletcher. I mean, you have got to get a legitimate defenseman out there. I mean, you've got to get a defenseman that can clear his zone, can knock opposing players on their ass, and can get the puck out of danger. I mean, 3 times in these 2 games we've seen, or 3 games, we've seen tic-tac-toe type goals where the goalie is left hung out to dry. And even the third goal, which was a shit goal from Elliott, the play started because you couldn't clear your zone. I mean, just not good enough defensively, and something has to be done, and something has to be done ASAP.
And I agree completely with what you said from the jump. This team did not deserve to win, and that's telling to me. When I look at this Flyers game, I don't walk away saying, that team deserved to win, and that's where I have the issue. If I could have said that, well, then maybe it's a different story. But they didn't truly deserve to win. If we rattle off their mistakes, yeah, guess what? And everyone keeps saying, well, they made one too many. Well, guess what? That one too many was too much. And he didn't come up with enough points out of this 3-game series against the Penguins. You got to be able to take those points away in regulation. Being in regulation is so crucial, and that's why we just gave Claude Giroux a standing ovation for the performance he had in Game 2 of this set, because you got it done in regulation. These are 4-point swings. Each game is at that point. Each game is a 4-point swing the way that this division is set up. And you just allowed the Penguins to grab it from you. And that's why I'm disappointed. Because you allowed this stupid black and yellow team to be able to take 4 of 6. And that should piss you off. That should eat you alive. The problem is you don't have that much time to let it eat inside of you, because the Washington Capitals are getting ready to come in and play some hockey and play you tough. That's going to be physical as well. That's going to be a very intense game. And I want to see Joel Farabee elevate his game and be that pest that he was against the Penguins tonight after he got hit like that. He didn't love it. He started that. He was the difference maker in that momentum swing, because the Flyers did come up big with the goal. Go scored right after that. That was very crucial to that spark. It was a 3-2 hockey game at that point. I want to see him bring that level to this Washington game, and I literally mean love watching Joel Farabee. Kid is flat out a stud. Getting that defenseman, all this talk that we keep hearing about Ekholm, I just wonder, with this Seattle team coming in, the Kraken, how is that going to change the mindset of making a trade? And I'm not saying it should stop you, but how much are you willing to give up? What are you willing to go after? Who are you willing to keep in your possession when the Seattle Kraken are available? Would you put up a big package if you know that, hey, this might not work for more than just this season? Because what if the Seattle Kraken come in and they take one of your players with this draft that they're having? So just something to add to. Just a layer to add to. It's a little twist into the story if you're Chuck Fletcher. I do need to let you know before we end this about my friends over at DraftKings. UFC 259 is this weekend and is sure to be action-packed with 3 title fights taking place in one night. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC, is putting you in the center of this weekend's title fight with 100-1 odds on either fighter to land a punch during the title fight. Just bet $1 on either fighter to land a punch, and if that happens, you cash $100. If MMA is not for you, DraftKings Sportsbook offers great odds and promotions on basketball, hockey, and so much more. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code Brodes when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 if either main event fighter lands a punch on Saturday. Place your bet and watch the fist fly this weekend. That's code Brodes to turn $1 into $100 if either fighter lands a punch. For a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. In partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Let's see what Carter Hart is made of. A little bit of a mental test, a little bit of some adversity. How are you going to hang? Are you going to be able to put this team on your back? Are you going to be able to keep Alexander Ovechkin down the left side of the wall off the score sheet? Not an easy task. This Washington Capitals team is a very solid team. That seems like they're putting it together a bit. All right, they're gelling. They're playing tough, and they got something to prove. Is Carter Hart going to be able to step up? Is Claude Giroux going to be able to keep him playing at that rate that he did in Game 2? Kevin Hayes got on the scoreboard. Build off of that. Nolan Patrick, screen the goalie. That's where we're at now. The bar is so low, I'm excited for a screen of the goalie. And look, I know how important that is. I do value that. I value the little things that most people don't see, and it doesn't pop as much. I know the intangibles that matter, that don't always get all the praise, that plays such a key role in the outcome of maybe producing a bingo or not producing a bingo. So I get that with Nolan Patrick. I just want to see if, out of the positives, because there were positives in the game, as stressed throughout this show, out of the positives, can you take those, build off of those, and beat the Washington Capitals to make us feel a little different? Because imagine if you lose. If you lose, and you might blame the resting side of things, you might blame the heavy schedule coming up. Guess what? It's a reality. So you better suck it up because it isn't changing. That's why I can't use it as the excuse. It's a reality of the situation, and it does matter, but you have nothing you can do about it. Go out there and play harder. Fight through it. Fight through the pain. Fight through being a little bit out of shape. Fight through having to come back after having a little bit of time off due to COVID-19. Do it. If you lose to Washington, now we start to raise more questions. Now more doubts creep into our head. But if you win, it's all right, hold on. There's something here. There's something to it. So it's going to be big for me. So with that being said, thank you all so much for listening. And I will see you next time.